We are going to talk now about Snmp operations and Snmp versions. With Snmp, in order to get access to the resources that are connected to a particular device, we first have to go through the object ID tree that lives within that device. So this object ID tree is sitting between us and the resources that live within that device in order to perform read operations, write operations, or receiving alerts. The first read operation that we are going to talk about is get request that has been defined since Snmp version 1. With get request, we can actually provide a list of different nodes from which we want to read their values. We need to provide each node object ID. These values will come back within a get response operation that was defined in version 1. Remember that get response was later renamed as just response with Snmp version 2. Another read operation that we have available to us is get next request that was defined since Snmp version 1. With get next request, we are going to provide the object ID of a particular parent node. The first time we call get next request, we are going to retrieve the first node value that lives within that parent node. The advantage of get next request is that with each next call, we are going to retrieve the next node within that part of the tree in such a way that we could use this operation in order to, for instance, discover how the tree is built. Now, if what you want to do is reading the values of a complete set of contiguous nodes within the tree, you can use the get bulk request operation that was defined since Snmp version 2. So this is also a read operation that will allow you to actually gather the values of a complete chunk within the tree, and these values will come back within a response operation. So at this point, you may have the question when to use get request, when to use get next request, when to use get bulk request. We can follow some suggestions. For instance, using get request to get a list of object IDs, get next request to explore the tree, get bulk request to retrieve a large set of all object IDs. However, it all comes to your programming skills. In order to change the values of one or several nodes within the tree, we can use the set request operation that was defined since Snmp version 1. In order to do so, we will need to supply the object ID of each node and the value. We can change several nodes in the same operation. We are going to receive an acknowledge through the get response operation. Remember that this was later renamed as just response since Snmp version 2. One way that remote devices have in order to send alerts to the network management systems is through the trap operation. The trap operation was defined since Snmp version 1. The trap operation will include an object ID that will identify a particular node within the tree that corresponds to an event that is the event that actually triggered this alert in the first place. The other way that remote devices have in order to send alerts to the network management system is through inform requests. Inform request was defined since Snmp version 2. They will include the object ID that corresponds to a certain event that triggered this alert. Inform requests are stored within this device's memory because this device must track them over time. The device is going to try to send this alert over and over again until it receives a response back from the network management system acknowledging this alert. Let's talk now about what Snmp version exists out there. We have version 1 that was heavily adopted, version 2 was not really adopted when it was released. So there was another version that is known as version 2C, that is the most used version nowadays. It is usually the default. We have version 3 now, which is recommended. Going into more detail, version 1 and 2 are both based on communities. We had these operations with version 1. We had these changes with version 2. Version 3 adds more security. These are the actual operations per version. And remember that with Snmp version 3, we are going to add authentication and privacy.